So good afternoon, colleagues. Can I ask you to take your seats, please? And perhaps we can close the door. So we will start with item 4 on environmental monitoring, assessment and reporting. So at our previous session, a special session in May, a representative of the Secretariat informed the committee of the need to extend the mandate in terms of reference of the Joint Task Force on Environmental Statistics and Indicators until the end of 2023. The committee decided to address this matter in the current session. I would also like to recall that the current mandate in terms of reference of the Working Group on Environmental Monitoring and Assessment expires on 30th June 2023. And as the committee's regular session is scheduled only for November 2023, an extension until the end of 2023 is also required for the mandate in terms of reference of the Working Group. We have here two problems. The mandates of these two groups expire before we have the meeting of the committee. Therefore, this is something that we need to solve. I would therefore invite the committee to endorse an extension of the mandates in terms of reference of the working group. You can find this extension in document ECE/EX/2017/L2 and annex to document ECE/CEP/AC.10/2021/4. This was for WGEMA, and now for the Joint Task Force until the end of 2023. The extension you can find in document ECE/CEP/S/2022/8. So this would allow the two bodies to present new draft mandates and not to have their mandates expire before we have the opportunity to decide whether or not to extend their mandates. If you agree on this, that's what we will do. The committee approves this extension. And if the committee approves these two extensions, the extension of mandate of these two groups, they will be submitted, of course, for decision of ExCom, because it's ExCom that needs to approve this. But before ExCom approves, CEP needs to submit these two decisions to ExCom. I would also invite the committee to consider allowing for further consultations on the possible establishment of a standing body on environmental statistics under the Committee and the Conference of European Statisticians, and supporting the proposal to seek additional resources to fulfill the expectations of the member states in the area of environmental statistics and indicators, and to cover a wider geographical scope and emerging policy themes. Okay, so we have two proposals for extension of mandates until the end of 2023. And we have here a proposal for the committee to allow further consultations, further discussions on the possible establishment of a standing body on environmental statistics under our committee and the Conference of European Statisticians. On the extension of the mandate, if the committee agrees, we approve it and we send this extension until the end of 2023 for approval of ExCom. So, the first subject. It seems that the committee agrees. Thank you very much. Now on the second subject on the, yes, Switzerland was moving immediately, and the European Union, I think you want to speak about the second or the first? The whole. So the European Union wants to speak about the whole issue here. So I will give the floor to the European Union first. Lucas, you have the floor, and then I will come back to this. Lucas.
Thanks, Madam Chair. We will speak on the extensions and also on the establishing of the standing body, if you allow. So, Madam Chair, the EU and its member states consider environmental monitoring, assessment, and reporting as an essential part of effective environmental policy. Reliable data coming from continuous environmental monitoring are indispensable if we are achieve the SDGs and adopt efficient data-based policies to improve the quality of the environment. It is even more relevant in the relatively new cross-cutting policy agendas that we will be tackling at the 9th EFE conference here in Nicosia. We recognize the importance of the activities carried out in the framework of Joint Task Force on Environmental Statistics and Indicators. We commend the work carried out since 2009, especially the revision of the indicators covered by the ECE guidelines for the application of environmental indicators endorsed in Belgrade, and welcome the cooperation of the Joint Task Force with the Conference of European Statisticians and other bodies. The EU and its member states recognize the challenges faced by the ECE Secretariat in terms of human resources and the challenges linked with the integration of traditional statistics and geospatial data. This and other tasks ahead of the joint task force require a more stable platform that would go beyond the current form of a task force usually convened to resolve short-term issues. In this sense, we support the extension of the joint task force mandate until the end of 2023. The joint task force works closely with the working group on monitoring and environmental assessment, whose mandate and terms of reference expire in November 2023. To allow the CEP to consider and approve these, we support also the extension of the mandate of the working group on monitoring and environmental assessment until the end of 2023. At this stage, we would like to highlight the need for a more structured and focused approach to the future work of the Joint Task Force and Working Group. This is due to the latest policy developments in the EU, which require substantial engagement of EU institutions in the implementation of the European Green Deal and Digital Agenda. For future work, we would also like to suggest that it be realized in a more streamlined way in relation to initiatives of participating organizations, namely the EEA and IONET activities, UNEP initiatives, and initiatives under the SDGs process. We also suggest that these activities will be conducted in close coordination with relevant organizations operating at the regional level in order to leverage the experience of the Joint Task Force and Working Group and limit duplication of work. This will certainly lead to the reduction of reporting burden and effective use of human and financial resources. The EU and its member states will remain engaged in environmental monitoring, assessment, and reporting activities in the UNECE region, and we wish to encourage all member states to do the same. This will add value and promote the importance of regional platforms for environmental and climate change, and will in turn support dialogue on any other critical challenges in the UNECE region. With regard to the suggestion to continue consultations on the possible establishment of a standing body on environmental statistics under the CEP and the Conference of European Statisticians, we would ask for further details on the scope and the time frame of this initiative. It is important to clarify how the mandate of this additional body is going to support and not duplicate the activities currently implemented under the Joint Task Force umbrella. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lucas. Listening to you, I remember to ask you, all those of you that have statements, please send them to the Secretariat, because this will make our life much easier for recording in the minutes and so on. Martin, I will give you now the floor, Switzerland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Switzerland welcomes the progress made by WGMA and the task force so far and will continue to provide full support to UNECE work in the field of environment monitoring and assessment. Therefore, we endorse an extension of the mandate and terms of reference of WGMA and the Joint Task Force until the end of 2023 to allow the two bodies to present new draft mandates and terms of reference after the EFE Environment for Europe Ministerial Conference here in Nicosia. We would like to point in particular the importance of reliable, up-to-date and quality data to address current and emerging needs and challenges, as well as addressing any remaining gaps, including the full implementation of the guidelines for the application of the UNECE environmental indicators. The continuation of the support for the implementation and operation of the shared environmental information system SAIS in Europe and Central Asia. I remember our meeting, I think it was in Belgrade, as we spoke about SAIS. I was not really aware what does it mean. It was quite technical, and now we can see that we achieved a lot thanks to this system. So we should continue to enhance our work in this direction. And also the need to keep the pan-European environment under regular review in support of sustainable transition. And in this regard, I think that this document put together, I think at the end by Nick Bonvoisin, is very relevant, very interesting, and I think we should have a look, and our minister also, before the meeting tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martin. I think we started discussing size in Astana. And then we spent 2 or 3 years discussing what was size, what was this concept, this new concept. And I very much agree that UNECE with partner organizations did an extremely valuable work in expanding the implementation of size in the Pan-European region. I think that it would be useful if we had if we receive more information on this consultations on the possible establishment of a standing body on environmental statistics from colleagues. So this is, as far as I understand, it is being discussed, but it has never been discussed in the committee. So I was wondering, where is it being discussed? Perhaps we could know more. I heard, well, from the EU that there is a need for further information on this. Perhaps colleagues from the Secretariat need today not on editing proposals, but perhaps you could provide us all more information on these discussions. I'll give you the floor. Nick Bonvoisin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to give a little bit of background. So the Joint Task Force was established in 2009 with an initial mandate of about 18 months. And that is the normal practice for a task force or a team of specialists, as they are often called in UNECE terms. And there are actually guidelines on the establishment and functioning of teams of specialists, which indeed foresee that they usually live for about 2 years. 13 years later, we can see that the work of the Joint Task Force is still very relevant, and indeed there are very many new challenges coming up, and we will talk about these in the next few days quite a lot, about sustainable infrastructure, about circular economy. These are quite complex areas which countries wish to discuss and share experiences on. So that is why we are looking to establish a body which is got a longer standing. Again, there are guidelines from the Executive Committee on what are called working parties, but sometimes they're not working parties, they're working groups or expert groups. And these still require a review of the terms of reference every 5 years. So even if we refer to it as a standing body, it is actually still under review. And this would be a replacement for the Joint Task Force. So it would be an elevation in its status, but it would not result in any duplication because it would replace the Joint Task Force. We would see that if this is what member states want, is that we would have a body which is more welcoming to all member states in the region, whereas the Joint Task Force had a particular focus on countries with economies in transition. And this also reflects to a degree the reality of the work of the Joint Task Force. We have a next meeting at the beginning of November, so people are still registering, but we can see that we have other states from within our region which are registered: Austria, Luxembourg, Spain and Switzerland, and the European Commission, which are registered for the next meeting. And we also have some countries from outside our region which are registering government experts. And that also reflects the situation with the Conference of European Statisticians, which has a broader geographical area, in fact, than Europe. Being a joint group of experts or a joint working group or working party would also give the members of that group the opportunity to review the work of what are really time-limited task forces under the Conference of European Statisticians, which have been working on things like climate change statistics, waste statistics, and could they have an interest also in looking at other areas. They have already been looking a bit at circular economy as well. So there would be a stronger role for such a body, a stronger position for such a body as well. There is one other thing, of course, which is very important, which is resources. In terms of course, we would like to see more staff resources to this area, but that's maybe a separate discussion. In terms of the implications on the budget, so far the Joint Task Force has had English and Russian translation and interpretation, and that has been a decision by the Committee on Environmental Policy not to include French. But in fact, we don't get credit for not using the French. It is already budgeted in, and it has just been a practical approach that we haven't been asking for French interpretation and translation. And that could be a question which could be posed once again if the committee wishes to consider replacing the Joint Task Force by a standing body. I think that's, yeah, well, the timeline, yes, thank you. I can't survive without Christine. So the timeline, the Joint Task Force, as I said, will meet in November, and we'll discuss further the ideas about the terms of reference. And of course, the intention is then to put a proposal before the Committee on Environmental Policy next November 2023. And as I said, normally it is a 5-year review, but sometimes committee might decide to review first after a couple of years to see how things are going and see if any adjustments are necessary. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nick. So if I understood well, this the standing body would not replace the two, meaning the Joint Task Force and WGEMA. It would only replace the Joint Task Force. So your proposal, or what you are considering and discussing probably internally, is that WGEMA will go on?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not sure whether colleagues wish to or not to ask for further clarification? Does not seem to be the case. Well, from my side reacting, I understand that, I understand the point that a standing body would be given more attention, even eternally. That point I understand. I always have this concern that when it's not difficult to create bodies, but it's impossible to abolish them. Even when they are temporary, you see, we are not able to abolish. So, but the main issue is whether or not they are relevant. That should be the main issue. And being relevant, if it makes sense that they are temporary, or if it makes sense that they are standing bodies. I think that all delegations need to consider this because there are different perspectives that can be taken into consideration. And what I would wish is that this discussion returns again to the CEP with more information, so that delegations can further consider and take decisions on this. We have 1 year and 2 months or 1 month. So at the next session, we will discuss this issue again. So if there are no further interventions from colleagues. So the decisions, I think they are clear. We will ask EXCOM to approve the extension of the mandate of the two groups, WGEMA and Joint Task Force. And we will wait until the next CP session where we will get more information and probably have a more in-depth discussion of this proposal to replace the Joint Task Force by a standing body. Of course, resources have to be taken into consideration for this. So I will now close this agenda item 4, and we'll open agenda item 5, which is also a regular item we have always in our agendas, which is the annual program of work of the Environment Sub-Program for 2023, and the outline of key components of the program of work of the Environment Sub-Program for 2024. The program of work of the Environment Sub-Program for 2023 you can find in ECE/CEP/S/2022/10. And this program, of course, is based on the ECE proposed program budget for 2023. The outline of key components of the program of work of the Environment Sub-Program for 2024 you can find in information paper number 18. I would like to invite the committee to adopt a draft annual program of work for the Environment Sub-Program for 2023 and recommend that it to be approved by the Executive Committee. Again, this is a document that is approved by the Executive Committee, by EXCOM. And I would also invite the committee to consider the outline of key components of the program of work of the Environment Sub-Program for 2024. But if there are any recommendations to these outlines, if you wish to intervene, I would give you the floor now for both documents. And we have a request from the European Union. Lucas.
Madam Chair, thank you. The EU and its member states appreciate the presented draft program of work of the Environment Sub-Program for 2023, which contributes to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals and welcome the reached objectives. The EU and its member states would like to assure the Secretariat of our recommendation that the program be approved by the Executive Committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lucas. Any further requests from the floor? Switzerland. Martin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Switzerland thanks the Secretariat for the preparation of this document, and we agree with the proposed program plans in the part 3 result area, in the 3 result area. Result 3, strengthened industrial safety governance in Eastern and Southeastern Europe, the Caucasus and Central Asia is welcome, especially because the Central Asia countries, except Kazakhstan, are not yet party to the UNECE conventions on transboundary effect of industrial accident. Nonetheless, the Convention Assistance and Cooperation Program also benefit non-parties, those of Central Asia and Georgia in particular, which are countries dear to Switzerland. We do therefore support the planned national policy dialogue to be sustained and implemented by these countries in 2023. Result 1, enhance environmental performance in the UNECE, and result 3, improve information for strengthening transboundary water cooperation, which are ongoing since 2022, also receive the full support of Switzerland for next year. Outline of key components of the program of work of the environmental sub-program for 2024. We agree with the outline, noting that it is in full continuation with the program of work of 2023. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martin. Are there any further requests from colleagues? The Russian Federation, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Due to the fact that Russia was blocked from participating in the 9th Ministerial Conference, we are against inclusion those provisions of the program of work that are aimed at achieving the outcomes of the 9th Ministerial Conference. Thank you.
Thank you, Russian Federation. Can I just ask you for clarification? You're referring to the program for 2023, right?
That's right. That's right.
The Russian Federation. I would like to ask you if you would agree to put a reference into the program expressing explicitly that you oppose this component, specific components, because the CEP does not approve this. CEP transmits this to the EXCOM.
Yes, Madam Chair, I understand that the goal was just to announce our position without putting any reference.
Okay, thank you very much. So you will be recorded in the minutes of the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. So thank you, colleagues. We will transmit these documents to EXCOM, especially the program of work. As you know, it's EXCOM that is supposed to approve it. They have the prerogative approving it. We will record the position of the Russian Federation in reference to the specific outcomes included in the program of work in the minutes of the meeting. Thank you very much. And now I will close this agenda item. As you know, we still have to go back to agenda item 2 on the 9th Environment for Europe Ministerial Conference, both the conference agenda and the ministerial declaration. So I would perhaps start with the conference agenda. And we included this agenda sub-item, this item in the agenda to allow the committee to consider any last-minute organizational issues related to the conference agenda and the organization of work that might arise. I would like to ask if delegations or any in terms of requests for clarification, anything regarding the agenda of the conference. Okay, so I will give the floor now to our colleague Zal from Secretariat. So.
Good afternoon. It's just to remind that the list of speakers, which might be of your interest, of the committee, of course, is uploaded on the website of the UNECE website of the conference. It is in the addendum to the organization of work document. The organization of work document is known to you, and its addendum contains now the list of speakers at the conference which were announced to us. You remember that we asked to express the interest in having during the conference the interventions. So we got quite a lot, and you can see the list of speakers. And the disclaimer is that it is the list is as it was yesterday, of course, and it is changing practically every day because of some changes in the delegations. I think it's by default. Just to announce that this is additional information for you. As for the agenda of the conference, this is not, it has not been changed. The sequence of the agenda items is still the same, so there is nothing to add practically. But there will be, of course, some opening ceremonies, which at that moment when we had this organization of work document, we are not clear how they will go. Today, we know more, but you will see tomorrow. The main point is that the delegations will be asked to take seats around 9:15. And then at 9:30, the opening show will start, and after that, the conference will go on. Just a practical information for you. If there are any particular questions, we will try to respond to them. Or if we will not be able, we'll check with our hosts and respond to you maybe later today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the additional information. Are there any questions? Okay, so it does not seem to be the case. Thank you very much. So what I suggest we do is that I announced yesterday that today at 4 p.m. we would have the voting of the declaration. It's not yet 4, so let's make a short break and let's be here 2 or 3 minutes before 4, okay? Please, sharp. Thank you. So colleagues, can I ask you to take your seats, please?
So, check outside.
Yes. So thank you. Can I ask you to take your seats, please? So the host country has received us very warmly, but I think next time I will ask the host country not to provide food and beverages outside the meeting room, because no food, no coffee, no nothing.
It's not anymore there. So.
I know, there's nothing there. So as agreed yesterday and following the request by the distinguished colleague from the Russian Federation, we will have a vote on the ministerial declaration. We have received 35 note verbal. As you know, delegations can only vote if they have sent the note verbal. And we received 35. Delegations have only one vote. And the text we are going to vote on is the text that we circulated yesterday. It was sent to all registered participants yesterday evening by the Secretariat. As you know, CEP does not approve or adopt the declaration. CEP agrees to transmit it to the Ministerial Conference. So what I propose, and which is in accordance with the rules of procedure of the Commission, is to vote by show of hands. And I will ask 3 questions. First one is, who is in favor of transmitting the text of the ministerial declaration to the Ministerial Conference? And then those of you that are in favor, you show your hands, and we will count. Who opposes to transmit the text of the declaration? And the third is who abstains. And then we will record, we will count and see what the result is. And in terms of result, to approve the transmission of the ministerial declaration, we need a simple majority of those that are present and voting. Is this clear for everyone? So, shall we do it? Okay, I will start. So, 1 vote for delegation, and give us time to count, okay? So, I will start with the first question. Who is in favor of transmitting the text of the declaration circulated yesterday to the Ministerial Conference? Those of you that are in favor, please show your hands. And I'll wait so that we can count.
$26. 26 in favor.
Thank you very much. Who opposes to transmit the text of the ministerial declaration circulated yesterday to the Ministerial Conference?
1. 1 against.
Thank you very much. And now the third question. Who abstains to transmit the declaration to the ministerial conference?
One. I don't see it. No. All right.
Thank you very much. So I conclude that we have a majority in favor of delegations present and voting in favor of transmitting the ministerial declaration to the ministerial conference. Thank you very much for the vote. It will be recorded in the minutes. Sorry. So it will be transmitted, and the ministerial conference will start tomorrow. Although not easy, this process, we've ended up with the approval to transmit by the CEP with a majority of delegations voting in favor of transmitting the ministerial declaration. Thank you very much for your efforts. The Russian delegation, you want the floor? I will give you the floor, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to make a comment in Russian language, so dear colleagues, please use the device. Российская Федерация.
The Russian Federation has consistently spoken out in favor of strengthening the UNECE as an important unifying forum for discussing a broad range of different issues in socio and economic development. We would like to remind you that during the 2011-2012 review of reform of the Commission, the countries of the European Union exerted maximum effort in order to weaken the political influence of the UNECE in identifying priorities and paths for the development of pan-European cooperation. The active contribution of the Russian Federation made it possible to preserve the key areas of activity by the UNECE, stopping from the European Union from turning this into a technical agency for developing and disseminating European Union standards in a broader region, and the European region is broader, of course, than the European Union. Year after year, the work at the Fifth Committee by the European Union is attempting to reduce the potential and capacity of this body, and Russia has fought against these efforts. We note with regret that the practice integrated in UNECE of taking key decisions does not fall in line with the key principles of the UN. The Commission has not been able to keep itself neutral and impartial. As a result of such destructive actions, the UNECE could lose its role as an instrument of depoliticized dialogue on socioeconomic cooperation issues for all countries of its region. In conclusion, I would like to thank the Armenian delegation for the position that they took during the voting. And, Madam Chair, we also request for all statements of the Russian Federation to be reflected in the final report of the work of the committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Russian Federation. They will be recorded in the minutes, I can assure you. I would like now to close agenda item 2B, which is on the preparations for the ministerial conference. And we move to agenda item 6, other business. And I would like to ask delegations whether there are any other business you would like to discuss, any issue you would like to raise. Well, it does not seem to be the case. So what do we need to do? Before the closure of the meeting, as you know, we project the decisions taken at the meeting. And for that, we need some time just to prepare the final list of decisions. I know that some of you are not active or normal participants to the CEP, but this is common practice. So we prepare the list of decisions, and then delegates have the opportunity to see projected on screen the list of decisions. We think that this is a very efficient way, and we have worked like this in the more recent years. And in my point of view, it's a way of having the decisions taken, circulate, and everyone knows what has been decided and what is the follow-up of the work of the committee. So I would like to ask you, I know that there is no longer coffee or drinks or food outside.
You just said it
Yes,
was not needed.
it was not, I said it was not needed, but perhaps. But I would like to ask you to give us until 4:30, I think, or do we need more time? Just let me just
How
check
much
with the
time do we need?
secretariat. Okay, so 20 minutes is enough. So let's restart at 4:30, okay? Please be in the room at 4:30. Thank you very much. Thank you all. So colleagues, can I ask you to take your seats, please? Shall we try to conclude our work? So item 7, closure of the meeting. We are going to project the decisions taken, the summary of decisions taken on the screen. So the Committee on Environmental Policy adopts the agenda of its special session, decides to transmit the draft ministerial declaration as amended during the session to the Nicosia Conference for adoption, adopts the recommendations sorry, here. Adopts the recommendations contained in the second environmental performance review of Armenia, information paper number 15. Adopts the recommendations contained in the third EPR of Azerbaijan, information paper number 16. Agrees to postpone the adoption of recommendations of the third EPR of Kyrgyzstan to its next session, while taking note of the commitment of Kyrgyzstan to provide to the UNECE Secretariat comments to the draft EPR recommendations, which you find in information paper number 17, underpinned by complete and accurate information at the latest by the end of 2022. Invites the UNECE Secretariat to assess the comments received from Kyrgyzstan and proceed with the necessary actions to finalize the recommendations of the country's EPR for consideration by the expert group on EPRs as needed and the committee. The actions will be subject to the availability of financial resources and the continued commitment of Kyrgyzstan, including participation in person in the meeting of the expert group on EPRs. Expresses sincere appreciation for the work of the EC expert group on EPRs, adopts the mandate and terms of reference of the expert group on EPRs for 2023-2026, and requests the ECE Secretariat to submit it to the EC Executive Committee for approval. Welcomes the information provided on activities of the EPR program and expresses its appreciation to the Secretariat for the excellent work in support of the program. Welcomes the start of the EPR of Mauritania. Welcomes the next EPRs to be conducted, the fourth EPRs of Tajikistan, Montenegro, and the Republic of Moldova. Takes note of activities to prepare for the fourth cycle of EPRs under the ECE EPR program. Invites the expert group on EPRs to prepare additional guidance on the conduct of the fourth cycle of EPRs for the consideration of CEP at its 28th session in November 2023. Takes note of the information provided by the Secretariat on resource mobilization for the ECE EPR program in 2021-2022, and in particular thanks Austria, Germany, Switzerland for their financial support, France, Germany, Hungary, Italy, and Portugal for providing expertise, UNEP for providing expertise, United Nations country teams, and UNDP for substantive and logistical support. Estonia, Georgia, Germany, Hungary, Italy, Montenegro, Romania, Switzerland, and UNEP for having delegated their experts to serve in and support the expert group on EPRs. Invite members of the committee to nominate their representatives to the expert group on EPRs. Encourages delegations to provide in-kind expert and financial support to the CEPR program. Appreciates the close cooperation of DC Environment, Statistical and Sustainable Energy Divisions and Sustainable Development and Gender Unit and United Nations country teams with the EPR program. Decides to extend mandates in terms of reference of the Working Group on Environmental Monitoring and Assessment and the Joint Task Force on Environmental Statistics and Indicators until end 2023 to allow the Working Group and the Joint Task Force to present new draft mandates in terms of reference after the next Environment for Europe Ministerial Conference to the Committee. And in the case of the Joint Task Force, the Conference of European Statisticians, and requests the Secretary to submit this decision on extension, I think we should have plural, these decisions on extension to the EC Executive Committee for approval. Thank you. Takes note of the proposal made to convert the Joint Task Force into a standing body and decides to have in-depth discussion based on detailed information provided by the Secretariat at the next regular session of the committee in November 2023. Adopts the draft program of work of the Environment Subprogram for 2023 and recommends that it be approved by the Executive Committee. Takes note of the outline of key components of the program of work of the Environment Subprogram for 2024, as contained in information paper number 18. Agrees to hold its next regular session in Geneva, to be held on 1 to the 1st to the 3rd November 2023. Expresses gratitude to the government of Cyprus for its hospitality and hosting the committee's special session in Nicosia. Requests the Bureau and the Secretariat to follow up on the committee's decisions, including by preparing the documents and reports necessary for the committee's work at its next regular session. Expresses gratitude for the work of the interpreters and the technical team in servicing the current meeting. And finally expresses also its appreciation, strong appreciation to the Secretariat for servicing the work of the meeting. So if there are no requests from the floor, does not seem to be the case, we will follow common practice, which is you will receive this list of decisions by email in the coming days, and then everything will be included, all the statements, all we had here from delegations will be included in the minutes of the meeting that you will receive as soon as the report is prepared. So I think it is now time to close the meeting. I want to thank very much all delegations, all delegates present here. And I want also to thank very much Cyprus for hosting us. Thank you very much. Beautiful room, all the proper conditions, wonderful food, very warm hospitality. Thank you very much for being here, for being so constructive, for being so polite. I think this was not exactly the session I thought we would have in the run-up to the conference, but it's what we were able to have. So for sure in the future it will be different. Thank you. I hope to see you in next sessions. It was a pleasure, an honor to be here. And we will meet in November for sure, 2023. So in 1 year and 1 month. Thank you and enjoy Cyprus. Thank you. Bye-bye.